So this is the best book that was ever written. It is Star Wars Boba Fett, The Fight to Survive, a Clone Wars novel by Terry Bisson. And when was it first published? I think it was first published in 2002. You might think, okay, what's a kid's paperback about the Clone Wars? Why is that the best book ever written? And I'll tell you why. Because this book is the book my son is currently reading, and he's loving it. And to me, that's really exciting because a lot of kids, struggle with the whole thing of picking up a book. And part of it is because schools make them read such boring books, such worthy books. And I know that when our teacher said that my son has to read more books, my wife and I had a bunch of arguments about it, because she was like, he needs to read chapter books, and she was picking up chapter books and things like this and pitching them. And when I suggested he read this book, she was like, you can't read that, that's just a science fiction kid's book about Star Wars. He needs to read a proper book. The problem is, none of the proper books necessarily interested him. But this book, my son and I, he's 10 now, we love Star Wars. And I love having a relationship with him about Star Wars, because my brother and I had so many of our childhood memories are important because of Star Wars, how we used to play Star Wars. Star Wars to me is something that means a lot. And it's great to be able to share this with my son. And we've been watching the prequel movies, because he's become obsessed with Jango Fett and Boba Fett. And we watched the book of Boba Fett. He loved that. And I don't really do that with my kids, sit down and watch like an entire long-form series. So it's been really fun. And he loves Boba Fett. And he wanted to watch Attack of the Clones, because he wanted to see Jango Fett. And he wanted to see Boba Fett as a kid. And afterwards, he wanted to know more. And the thing is, there is more to learn. So about the same time Attack of the Clones got released, Scholastic released a bunch of books. These are canon. So these are actually, according to the Star Wars lore, I don't know how I think these days Disney's rewriting stuff. But anyway, for the most part, this is an accurate representation of what happened to young Boba Fett immediately after Attack of the Clones. And my son was really interested in reading it. He's really interested in reading all of them. So he finds out what happened to Boba Fett in the 20 years or something between Attack of the Clones and when we see him in the book of Boba Fett. And it's wonderful that these books exist. And it really annoyed me that my wife was like, oh, it's not a worthy book. She needs to read something more serious. Because I'm not... If a kid is excited about picking up a book and reading a book, isn't that the most important thing? It is to me. And there's something else, though, that we need to talk about when it comes to this book. Star Wars, Boba Fett, The Fight to Survive, a Clone Wars novel. It's written by somebody called Terry Bisson. And if we're going to talk about worthiness, Terry Bisson, most people when they look at this might not even think of the author, because it's a Star Wars book. They're thinking the Star Wars story. But Terry Bisson is a Hugo and Nebula Award-winning science fiction writer. Harry Turtledove, who writes amazing alternative histories, he even mentioned one of Terry Bisson's most famous stories, the one for which he won the Hugo Award, which was called Bears Discover Fire. And it was basically about life going on in the American Southwest, the American West, except bears figure out how to make fire. And so they start having campfires by the side of the road. And it's a really amazing story. It's a really amazing concept for a story. That's good science fiction right there. The other one he did was They're Made Out of Meat. It's another short story. Oh, I love it. It's about two non-corporeal aliens who can travel faster from light, come to visit our solar system to see if there isn't any intelligent life here. And they come to Earth and they see that there is life here. And they're like, I don't get it. They're made out of meat. And basically the fact that we are physical life forms and they are non-corporeal life forms, they don't understand or comprehend us as life forms, and so they end up deleting all knowledge of us and marking down our solar system as uninhabited. So that's another great science fiction concept. So look, my wife's saying this book isn't worthy. I'm getting my son to read science fiction by a Hugo and Nebula Award-winning author. So I'm fine with that. To me, it's really important that books like this exist, and it's really important that people write books that interest kids and get them into it. I mean, the wonderful thing about this is they're never going to make a movie series or a Disney Plus series about Boba Fett growing up into an adult. But they don't need to, because Terry Bisson told us that story, and a lot of the beginning of this book is stuff from Attack of the Clones, just seen from Boba Fett's perspective as a 10-year-old kid. And then more stuff will happen, but these are all adventures that my kid wants to learn about. And thanks to the beauty, the wonder of books. You don't need to make a $1 million series on Disney Plus. You have one guy, a Hugo and Nebula award-winning author, write books about it, and then my son reads them. He actually reads them out loud to me, which is really cool. He's never done that with anything. He conjures them up in his head, and as I listen to him read the books to me, I conjure up the things in my head, and it's wonderful. And we get to walk in this same fictional wonderland together at the same time and experience it in our own unique way. So I worded it at the very beginning. This was the most important book ever written, because when it came down to it, it was, at that particular point in time, the best book ever written, because it was exactly the book that my son wanted, and he's reading it. He's got his little bookmark in here. He's page 49. So I think it's wonderful, and I have been listening to it, and the great thing is, again, people are going to deride this book as just a kid's book or something, but Terry Bisson is a brilliant writer, and he writes very succinctly and concisely, and communicates what is happening very well. And that's why it's great for my son, and it's great for me. He's a brilliant writer because he does what writers should do best, which is communicate, explain, make things clear. And once you do that, the world is your oyster. You can conjure up things that we couldn't even imagine on a television screen or a movie screen. So it's I just thought I'd make a quick video and say that. But also, you know, if you've got kids, don't worry too much about them reading worthy books. Introduce them to books that they want to read. Because to be honest, all books are worthy books. If they're, you know, I hate this thing of like, there are good books, there are bad books. All books that are published to some basic level of like reader, author expectation are good books, especially if they resonate with people. And this book resonates with my 10-year-old. He's a 10-year-old and he loves his dad, and my son is a 10-year-old and he loves his dad, and well, yeah, and it's great because he can see himself in the character, and that's what good books should be about. So I believe Terry Bisson is still alive. He's 80 years old, I think. But if for some reason you are ever on YouTube and you watch this video, Mr. Bisson, thank you very much for writing this book. And I know you wrote the next one in the series, and then some other authors took over. But it's great, and it's meant a lot to my son and I, and we enjoy it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. But just remember, the most important thing about books, the most important thing about reading is that you enjoy it, and you're engaged in it, and you immerse yourself in what you're reading. Reading should be an enjoyable experience. That's all I have to say. I will chat to you later. Ciao. I'm Roland. I've sold 67,000 copies of my books. If you want to find out how I did it, I've got a link right here you can click. And otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos coming soon. Thank you.